First of all, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Parkland HOA Presidents Council Mayoral Debate. I am Neil Vogel, the president of the Heron Bay Community Association. First and foremost, on behalf of the entire group, we hope that you're all well and safe during these extraordinarily challenging times. I think when we first started thinking about this, there was no virus, and we were trying to figure whether we get the amphitheater or something else. So maybe in 2 years from now, we'll do that. But it is a Zoom meeting, and I would like to thank our Heron Bay General Manager, Minda Stratton, who is our Zoomologist, a new title created during the pandemic. So unlike debates that some of us have seen on TV, Minda does control the microphones. I tell you all that in advance. The Parkland HOA Presidents Council, Ken, we organized this about 1.5 years ago for the collective good of all of our communities, the residents, and to work cooperatively. And it's really been a major asset to all of the HOAs, because during the pandemic in particular, we're able to share our situations and come up with common solutions to an extraordinarily, well, certainly an unprecedented time. This debate is a nice byproduct of the work of that group. Tomorrow night, we will hear from all 8 of the candidates for the City Commission seats that are open. We will make available copies of this event with details to be sent via social media. I know Minda's working on the details of where to post it and how to post it, so we will make that available through a variety of ways, including our own newsletters, social media. We'll ask the press to put it out there. So for the handful of the 30,000 residents who couldn't make it tonight, it will be made available to them. Tonight's debate will be for 1 hour only, and that's from the point that we turn this over to Jeff, since my speaking and Ken shouldn't count against all of you. The rules governing the debate will be shared with you by my colleague and friend, Ken Webster, the president of Parkland Isles. So that everybody understands, the questions that will be asked were submitted via email. Ken and I reviewed them to put together, there could have been 20 questions on the same subject, so we put them together in some cohesive fashion. The questions, as I think both Rich and Stacy will acknowledge, have not been shared with either one. This will be the first time they're hearing it. And both candidates, I wanted to say this in this difficult time. Both candidates are good and decent people. I happen to be friends with both of them. And the city is fortunate that one of them will become the mayor of the city. But this is not about negativity. I think we can all be civil. People will disagree on issues, and that's healthy. But as long as we keep it respectful and in a civil way, we'll all emerge from this as a better city, and whoever is elected will probably come out of this as a better mayor. It is now my pleasure to turn this over to my colleague, Ken Webster, president of Heron Isles.
Thanks, Neil. So great. So I'm going to keep it brief and pass everything as quickly as possible over, and so we can get started. First, I want to welcome Commissioner Kagan and Commissioner Walker, our current commissioners from District 1 and District 2, to participate with us tonight. One of the things that I've noted, you look at how much campaigning is going on and how much participation there is from the people who are actually running for office. You know, I've never experienced it here, so I think it's great that people are getting more involved. Maybe it's because we're all home and everybody's in the house, and but it's great. So thank you for that. You know, as Neil said, you know, we put the questions and topics together, you know, based on reviews from people sharing. And one of the things I wanted to share is a lot of the topics that are going to get covered tonight are things that, you know, Commissioner Kagan and Commissioner Walker, you've already addressed and talked in other media about. So, you know, when we look at it, you know, we were hopeful that we get as many people as possible participating tonight. And so, you know, we're looking for you to expand on the things you've already said and talked about to others, and hopefully to identify the similarities, but also the differences that exist between your views on these subjects. Some of the things I haven't seen and will be new, I think, at least from, you know, what I've been able to glean so far. But we're very thankful for your service to the city and appreciate you participating tonight. Now I want to introduce our moderator. So Mr. Jeff Foster, I'm going to say, because my daughters said it, and every time we mention his name, he is referred to as one of the most beloved teachers at Marjory Stoneman Douglas. He agreed to do this. Jeff is the advanced placements government and politics teacher at Stoneman Douglas. And I think, is very well revered, especially by his students. After the tragedy in 2018, you noted a lot of kids that were getting involved and really, made us proud as a city in Parkland. And so many actually referred to Jeff as the inspiration for themselves understanding enough about government and how to get involved and how to make a difference. And, Jeff's primary, the one thing I always see when I see or hear somebody talking about Jeff is his stance that one person can make a difference at any age. And to me, we've never had a time that's where what he teaches and what he's shared is more relevant. So the other bit of good news is Jeff's also a new author. So Jeff just released a book called For Which We Stand, How Government Works and Why It's Important. And so again, to me, timing, I don't think Jeff anticipated what's going on in the world right now when he started writing this book for Scholastic. But I don't think there's a more relevant time for a book like this to come out. It may have been put together for younger audiences, but I have a copy, I've read it. I think everyone should get this book and read it. It is something that I think is lax and really not focused on in schools, and everybody really should understand, especially in the world we're in today. So thank you very much, Jeff, for agreeing to participate, and I'm going to pass it over to you.
Ken, before you pass it on, one last thing. Are either you or Jeff going to explain the time limits on each question?
Jeff's got the time limits, and yep.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jeff.
All right, thanks, guys. I appreciate it, and my love for the community is obvious. I've taught at the school, like I said, for 20 years. I've been a Palm Beach resident for the last 18 years. I grew up in Coral Springs, so I'm well acquainted with the area, and it's an honor to be here tonight. Let me go through the ground rules first. I'm going to read them so I don't mess them up, although I think I've committed them to memory, but I'll say them, and if I forget, I'll peek to the right for a second. That's what I'm looking for. We'll start. We're just going to alternate people to go first. Commissioner Walker, if you don't mind, you'll take the first question, and then I'll ask Commissioner Kagan for a 2-minute response as well. You're each going to have 2 minutes for your responses. When we get to 1 minute and 50 seconds, if you're still speaking, Ms. Stratton will hold up a sign. If she could hold up a sign for a second. That says 10 remaining. Okay. And then I will do a little mental countdown on my head, and I'll say, it could be a thank you, or if you can be, cognizant of that, then hopefully stop in those 10 seconds. And then I will just, if you'd like me to repeat the question, I'll be happy to repeat the question. If you've heard your counterpart obviously talk about it for 2 minutes, whatever the topic might be, you could just roll right into it. I'll ask you if you'd like me to say it again. Again, once 2 minutes up, we're gonna move on to the next question. If you choose to rebut something that the candidate said, that's your prerogative, but you're gonna have 2 minutes to answer how you feel about that question. And at the end, we're gonna allocate, I believe we said 5 minutes, okay, to basically highlight your qualifications, why you're the best candidate. And if you wanna point out any differences or discrepancy that you thought the other candidate might've said during one of his or her responses, that would probably be the best time to do that. So then you won't have to, use that time during your 2 minutes. Any questions about anything before we begin?
No.
Oh, one other thing, actually, I might as well just ask you now since I have the stage for a minute. We have a laundry list of questions, and the odds are, we're not going to get to all of them. So I assume at the end, the people that might be disappointed that don't get their questions asked, we were hoping to package those and send them on to you guys. And then if you choose, you can answer them on social media at a later time. Is that okay with you too?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So without further ado, let the mayoral debate begin. Commissioners, best of luck to both of you. Thank you for being here. And I think this is awesome because like Ken said, I think, the political process is the most important thing that we do. And it's heartening to see so many people take an interest in local politics. And frankly, even though I work in Parkland, now that I've seen these issues, I'm kind of involved in the issues. I'm really curious to see how your answers are because I've sort of not tried to look up too much. I mean, I obviously, I know both of you on social media, and I've seen you, and I've seen you answer some questions, but I've sort of tried to, I'm very unbiased, I like you both, but I sort of want to discover your opinions along with everybody else that's watching tonight. So again, best of luck to both of you.
Great, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Walker. The first question is probably the most asked question that I've seen on the various media points I've said, so it's important that it's first, I think.
Right.
What is your stance on the Pine Tree Estates road issue? Do you favor residents of the city paying, or residents of Pine Tree Estates paying for the road repairs or sharing of the cost? And if you do favor the city paying for the roads, will you also support the city paying or paving other roads within other HOAs?
Right. So thank you for that question. So Pine Tree Estates, for those of you who don't know, that's the community and the roads that are going up Holmberg. And one of the things about Pine Tree Estates, they've had issues going on since, 1966. In 1976, there was a resolution, regardless of what you think of the legalities of, right now, Pine Tree Estates, they're in a lawsuit against the city of Parkland, looking to get their resolution, get the city to pay for their roads. It's unfortunate that residents feel the need to sue the city to have their voices heard. And that's something, to me, as an elected official, is unfortunate to see that happen. So Pine Tree Estates, they pay property taxes up to the yellow line. So halfway on the road, each resident pays taxes. There's a value to those taxes that they pay for those roads. What that value is can actually be quantified based on their property taxes. So it's my opinion the city owes some portion, to those residents in Pine Tree Estates. So whether or not we want to say these are the legalities, to me, is irrelevant. If we win the lawsuit, they win the lawsuit, my opinion will not change one way or another. They pay taxes halfway up the road. There's a quantifiable amount that they pay in taxes. The city owes the residents of Pine Tree Estates something. It's something that's been going on for 25, 30 years. We should have addressed this issue far prior to now, and I'm glad the issue is brought to the forefront, and I'm looking forward to make sure this issue gets resolved in some form or fashion.
I appreciate it. Commissioner Kagan, would you like me to repeat the question, or are you okay with the question?
I'm okay with the question.
Okay, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Foster. So let me share a few things about Pine Tree. Over the last many, many years, going way back, this commission, the commission before that, there have been multiple people that have served on our commission and have actually lived in Pine Tree. One of the reasons that this has not been resolved to this point is because it is an extremely complicated issue with a lot of concerns. And there was a lot of mixed messaging that was shared to the commission, to the residents. I look at it a little bit differently. And I say, when I hear the residents say to me, stay out of Pine Tree, they'll come to the commission meeting, they'll hold up a sign, stay out of Pine Tree. For many, many years, we've had money in the budget to assist with Pine Tree roads. And I'm very curious, because it was brought to my attention by several residents in Pine Tree that Commissioner Walker had shared with the residents that he felt that the city should pay for the roads. So this was a topic that our city attorney asked us not to talk about, gave us very clear directives of what we could and could not say about Pine Tree roads because we are in litigation with Pine Tree. And it's been brought to my attention by multiple residents that Commissioner Walker has said the city should pay for the roads. And then there was other discussion about when Commissioner Walker spoke to Pine Tree and he said, it's in the budget to pay for the roads. We have the money to pay for the roads. So my question is, where is the money? How much money are you talking about? The commitment that I made to Pine Tree was that the day I become mayor, I will start working on Pine Tree and I will come up with a win-win solution to what's going on in Pine Tree. But when somebody says that the money is in the budget and we have the money and the city's going to pay,
Thank you.
where is the money and how will this be handled?
Okay. Thank you for that. All right, on to the second question. Commissioner Kagan, you'll get this one first. We're staying with areas that are in flux, apparently. What is your stance on the future of the Heron Bay Golf Course? How will your solution be funded, including the use of city funds? And will you find any housing on property to be acceptable? And what about commercial space?
I am so happy you asked that question. And we are a little bit limited on that as well, but I'm going to share as much as I possibly can. And I believe in being very upfront, and regardless of whether somebody agrees with me or not, what you can expect from me is the truth. So the Heron Bay Golf Course is divided, and it's divided because 30% of the golf course is in Coral Springs, 70% of the golf course is in Heron Bay. So when I talk about having relationships with other cities and other community leaders, it's hugely important because there's a 7-year covenant left on the golf course. And we have some very, very strong minds, including Mr. Vogel and other people that are working on plans for the golf course. The golf course is owned by a Canadian company. And until they actually come forward to the city with either a proposal of what they're going to do or an idea of what they would like to do, I can tell you I live on the golf course and it's been used more now than I have seen it used in 16 years. We have people biking out there, walking, skateboarding, walking their dogs, kids playing. It's a beautiful green space. Also, NSID owns the lakes inside of the golf course. So because NSID owns the lakes, they also own a portion of the land that is connected to the lakes. So any development that would be done on that golf course would be very, very limited. And it's a very long way away. And it would also need the relationship between Coral Springs and Parkland, because the most important thing is that golf course being done in a way with the most limited amount of homes, the most limited amount of density, and the most amount of green space and use for our community. And I know that whenever that's ready, it will be a very good thing and a very beautiful place for our community to enjoy.
Thank you, Commissioner Kagan.
Thank you.
Commissioner Walker?
Yeah, so in reference to the Heron Bay Golf Course, I like to bring ideas. So the Heron Bay Golf Course is not profitable to stay as a golf course. Parkland needs some additional commercial properties in order to offset some of our residential property taxes. I personally feel that that area would be a nice spot to put some limited commercial. It would be people coming from Coral Springs potentially going there. It would not necessarily bring additional traffic. Having some sort of commercial properties, maybe some limited residential, will allow us to keep a majority of the golf course as green space. As far as working with other communities, we'll all be happy and willing and able to work with other communities. Coral Springs does in fact own 30% of Heron Bay, but they don't own the 70% that we own or that we're in possession of. So the owner can sell some. He can work out his deal with Coral Springs, or he can work out his deal with Parkland. But Parkland is actually by itself. If we do the commercial space on our own, that's absolutely totally acceptable. Whether we do some commercial, some office space, some residential, that's up to Parkland. It's not up to Coral Springs what we do, but we could use some additional commercial property. That's a good spot for it because it does not bring additional traffic from neighboring areas that would be within the middle of Parkland. So in my opinion, I would love to see some limited commercial there, some office space, and potentially some residential. But that will give us an opportunity to keep a large portion of Heron Bay Golf Course green space.
Thank you. There's a couple more questions about property areas, but we're going to segue into something else. And if we have time, we'll come back to those two areas. So the next question, again, from a citizen, how will you deal with issues that come before the commission when a contributor to your campaign is involved directly or indirectly? This is for you, Commissioner Walker, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. Will you disclose to the public the contribution, and will you recuse yourself from that issue? Absolutely.
Any donations that are given to my campaign, I would have no problems disclosing where those donations came from. And if it was an issue that came before the commission, I would absolutely have no problems recusing myself from that particular vote. I'd like to go back and touch on Pine Tree Estates a little bit, since I do have some time. I've never promised anyone that the city will pay to pave the roads. What I said, and I've always said, the city owes the residents of Pine Tree Estates a value to what they have paid in property taxes. They pay property taxes to the yellow line. That is more than what most residents pay. Most residents do not pay up until the yellow line. There is a definitive and quantifiable value to what the residents of Pine Tree pay. What that value is something we need to resolve. And our attorneys had asked us not to comment on the legalities of this issue. And I've always said, win, lose, or draw the legal case, my opinion stays exactly the same. It doesn't matter if we win the case, lose the case. My values and what I believe the residents of Pine Tree are owed would not change one single bit.
Thank you. Commissioner Kagan, the same answer I asked Commissioner Walker. How will you deal with issues that come up before the commission when a contributor campaign is directly or indirectly involved? And will you disclose to the public that contribution or recuse yourself from that issue?
So in campaigning, we have something that we have to do every month, and that's called filing a report. That report is due on the 10th of the month. Every month, whatever I do, I report on my campaign report. I am a very open, honest person of character. Sometimes people make donations to my campaign that I may not like. Sometimes people may make donations to my campaign that I don't agree with. And just because somebody would make a donation to my campaign doesn't mean in any way, shape, or form that I would vote in favor of that person or company because of what was donated to my campaign. Now, if there was anything that was a legal binding thing that would eliminate me from being able to vote, then I would be very clear and I would say I would recuse myself. But based on the people that have donated to my campaign and or businesses, my vote does not matter whether or not they've donated to my campaign or have not donated to my campaign. I care about every single resident in Parkland, and my only concern is protecting my community and the future of my community. And since I have more time, I'm going to go back to two of the questions, and if you give me the 10 seconds, I would appreciate it. I would recommend that every single resident who is watching reads Commissioner Walker's interview on Pine Tree Estates, because what he said is very different than what he is saying tonight. Do not take my word for it. I would not tell the residents of Pine Tree what they wanted to hear to obtain a vote. Just like if somebody gives me a contribution to my campaign, that will not determine how I vote. What will determine how I vote is my character and what's in the best interest of our community and the future of Parkland. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Kagan. Right, on to question number 4. The governor has proposed legislation to combat the rioting and looting and violent assemblies that have resulted in the assaults of police and citizens around the country. Where do you stand on the defunding proposals, and how would you ensure the safety and security of Parkland residents and their property?
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up, and if you didn't, I probably would have. I don't believe in defunding the police. I believe in retraining. I believe in giving people the education and the knowledge that they need to keep our community safe. We have a community of a very different type of person. We have little children, we have adults. We have people from every different race, religion, different feelings of what they feel about the community, but there's one thing that everybody wants in Parkland, and that's safety. We have a diverse community, and we need to make sure that everything in our community is addressed. When I become mayor, I will make certain that we have teams in place, we have boards in place, we have focus groups in place, so our community has a voice. So each resident has a voice to share what they feel and what they would like to see in Parkland. Protecting our residents and keeping them safe is the most important thing overall above anything, whether it's safety against COVID, whether it's bullying, whether it's cyberbullying, whether it's people being harassed, whether it's children walking in a park and we need to make sure that they get safely from the park to their car. So to me, it's all about education and giving people the knowledge and the understanding so they know what they should be doing and not be doing. Nobody should be afraid of the police, and the police should be educated on what our community needs.
Commissioner Walker, same question.
Yeah, so in June, Sheriff Tony contributed $1 million to a racial equality and implicit bias training program with the BSO law enforcement officers, which I absolutely agree with, and I commend him for doing that. We need to make sure we're looking out for all the residents. As Stacy had said, safety is the utmost importance, and we need to make sure all of our residents feel safe. But with that being said, we need to make sure we're prepared for whatever it is that may come in front of us. And one of the best things we can do is, as a community, is make sure our community embraces our diversity. We need to make sure our children understand that not everybody is the same. A lot of the people from our community, they come from all across the world. And as a father of 5 children, it's important for me that I instill the values to my children to make sure they understand not everybody looks the same, and that shouldn't matter. What matters is what's inside a person, and to make sure we're inclusive, we love each other, and under every and single circumstance, we're looking out for all the residents of Parkland, and we're trying to be one community. And that's one thing that I will absolutely make sure within our community, that we're together, we're one community, and we're all working together to do the same thing, whether it's on the parks, whether it's at the PREC, whether it's at community events, or our businesses, or our business practices within City Hall, that we're inclusive of everyone. And that to me is one of the most important things we can do, because that translates throughout our children's lives and throughout our country. And if we can do that more, we'll be a better place.
Thank you. All right, staying with the issue of public safety, what's your stance, this is for Commissioner Walker, I'm sorry. What's your stance on replacing the current BSO contract and returning Parkland to a city with its own police force? What impact, if you do support that, will it have on the community, and how much of a tax increase would residents be in for compared to their current rates?
Yes, so right now, I'm very happy with the direction that Sheriff Tony has taken. I've endorsed Sheriff Tony's campaign. I'm very happy to see what he has done. He has set up a communications department that directly looks at each school. His communications department that he has set up, it's got cameras everywhere. It was a wonderful sight to see. And he has turned the culture of that organization around. With the addition of Captain Mulligan, it really has given Parkland a new sense of security. So I'm all for keeping BSO. That being said, having a conversation about a new Parkland Police Department is something I'm willing to have. But I do believe the cost implications of starting that police department, the culture of the police department, right now it might be a difficult situation to try to start, brand new. So I'm all in favor right now of staying with BSO and Sheriff Tony. I think we're headed in the right direction, and I'm very proud of that and very happy. And, we're looking forward to staying with BSO.
Commissioner Kagan, BSO or City of Parkland Police?
I'm going to go through it all with you. And this
okay.
Experience matters and experience counts. I also went and saw what Sheriff Tony did, and I was quite impressed with it. I believe Commissioner Walker and I might have even been there together. I have to disagree with one thing that Commissioner Walker said. The cameras are not everywhere, and they cannot be watched all of the time. So there are cameras in a lot of areas that are areas in which BSO feels are challenging areas. That is not monitored on a regular basis, although they are working on monitoring it on a regular basis. For me, the question is, why BSO? Yes, I would say that I am very happy with the way BSO is working right now. With Captain Mulligan and Lieutenant Devlin, they've done things that have made it feel like we have community policing, which is a very important thing for our community. So Captain Mulligan and Lieutenant Devlin have been coming out into any HOA that will invite them or any area that will invite them. They come with their toys, they come with their bikes, they come with the dogs. They let the kids play, they let the kids feel comfortable. And I love the fact that we have one leader that's male and one leader that's female, because we still have a lot of kids and a lot of families that are going through extremely difficult times since the shooting and now through the pandemic. And this is the difference that I believe experience matters. Not only do I feel confident with the way policing is going now, I have a plan in place that I've discussed in detail with Captain Mulligan on what we need to do going forward to engage our residents more, to make our residents feel safer and actually be safer, which is crucially important. We have to give ourselves the question in our head, why? Why BSO now? I would also like to say that I was endorsed by the PBA, and I'm very, very proud of that. And I want to end on one note with this, and I can circle back if we have to. But every 4 years, we vote on a sheriff. I think Sheriff Tony is terrific. I am so thrilled that we have Sheriff Tony. And the only way that I would look towards a municipal police department right now is if we didn't have Sheriff Tony, or if something was done that I didn't feel was in the right place for our community now. But keep in mind, in 4 years, we have to vote on a new sheriff.
Thank you.
Feeding our community and coming up with ideas is a very big important thing for community policing and that feel of community policing.
Thanks, Commissioner Kagan. Try to stay a little closer to the time. I think we're about 30 seconds over there. Okay, no problem. Since you mentioned it, I'm going to ask this question because this was asked a lot, and this is obviously something we've all been dealing with for the past 6 or 7 months now. What will you do to help local businesses recover from the COVID impact?
Well, I've done that, and I haven't stopped doing that. From the start of COVID, I've been out meeting with local businesses. I've actually spent time sitting with them, asking them what they need, why they need it. I'm a connector. I connect one business to another business to another business. And the reason that I do that is it's about relationships. I've been a business owner for many, many years. And not only have I lived in this community for 16 years, I've been networking in this community for almost 25. I'm very proud to say that I used to sit on the board of the Parkland Chamber. I helped restart the Parkland Chamber. I started 3 networking groups in our community to not only engage local businesses, but businesses located in Parkland and business owners that own businesses outside of Parkland that also conduct business in Parkland. And I'm very proud to say that a large majority of what I have purchased even for my campaign has been through local business owners. My t-shirts, my signs, my printing. I believe in not only helping the businesses that are literally brick and mortar in Parkland, but the business owners that have businesses outside of Parkland. From our restaurants and encouraging people to feel safe and give our restaurants a try, to introducing businesses that are hand in hand with what each other can do to enhance and direct. I also voted on having larger signage in Parkland many years ago, because when our businesses were having a difficult time, when I first became elected, they were struggling and they wanted more signage. And it was a big issue because there were a lot of residents in Parkland that did not want signs. And I know Commissioner Walker knows how important signs are. He's in the sign business. So having business owners communicate, get the word out there, talk to other business leaders in the community.
Thanks, that's time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Walker?
So I've been working with our local businesses long before COVID. I've been working with our local businesses since I moved here 6 years ago. For me, it's not a campaign. For me, it's about a way of life. I deal with my business owners. I work with our business owners. I visit our businesses daily. During COVID, when there was issues with the gyms and there was closures, I've reached out to all of our local businesses and asked them, how can I help you? And you can count and you can ask how many businesses will tell you if I ask them for help. I was proud to vote for the Buy Local initiative. Owning a business outside of Parkland as a Parkland resident, I understand my first responsibility is with the city of Parkland. The city of Parkland, we need to ensure that our businesses located within the city limits of Parkland are successful. Of course, I want to support the local businesses, the local residents who own a business outside of Parkland. But as a local official, it's important and it's imperative that I support our local businesses within the city limits of Parkland. So anything we can do to boost our businesses within the city of Parkland helps our property values. It helps our businesses. Those are the things that I must do first, and I will absolutely do first, even if that means not offering business to someone who has a business outside of Parkland. Regarding signs, it's not just signs. It's the berms that we set up. It's our landscaping. On 441, we have a lot of businesses that can't be seen from 441. That is something, if I was on the dais at the time, I would have fought very strongly for, to ensure that our businesses could be seen from 441, as opposed to people driving by. Most people don't know there's a Great Clips there or Malbec Grill or what have you. Those are the things we need to absolutely fight for, and those are the things I will fight for most heartily.
Thanks. All right, next question is for you, Commissioner Walker.
Mm-hmm.
Back to the land issues again. Please address your stance on Gator Acres, the 5-acre parcel at the end of Loxahatchee Road.
Yeah, so Gator Acres, right now, Gator Acres, it's one of the things that we've had issues with in Parkland for several years. Our landowners, our developers, they've been playing games with us for several years. Gator Acres, the landowner, is doing the same thing. Gator Acres is the 4.5 acres at the end of Loxahatchee Road. Broward County took eminent domain and they put a safety cell tower on that property. The landowner who bought the property for $635,000 a few years ago was upset that Broward County came and took that property and put that cell tower there. He is now trying to use that as leverage against the city of Parkland so he can gain additional funds for himself. And he's using that as his ploy to try to get additional funds. There's scare tactics being used. That's why it's been quiet as of late. Miralago, Cascada, Parkland Bay, every one of those communities are having the same issues with our developers. It's the sidewalks, it's the roads, it's the drainage. We need to hold our developers and our landowners accountable for what they're doing. Anybody you ask in Miralago, they'll tell you, we're having sidewalk issues, we're having road issues, we're having drainage issues. Same thing's happening in Cascada. And now the same thing is happening again in Parkland Bay. I will ensure that I hold our developers accountable. I will hold our landowners accountable. They will not be able to get away with the things that they have. As a commissioner, it's my responsibility to ensure city staff make sure our developers are doing everything that they're supposed to do and living up to their promises.
Thank you. Commissioner Kagan, Gator Acres.
Wow. I have to say wow. And the reason I have to say wow is I've been working on Gator Acres for over 3 years. The owner of Gator Acres has two other parcels. One is called Sabra, one is called NSID. Gator Acres is the tiny little parcel that's 4.77 acres, and that parcel has not been annexed into the city of Parkland. Do we think he's the nicest guy? No. Have I had issues with the way he handles things? Absolutely. However, when you're a landowner, and this is again where experience counts, a landowner has land development rights. And if you don't let somebody develop on land that they own that fits into what Parkland is, they have a right to either go to the county or fight with the city. So when our commission did not support annexing in Gator Acres into Parkland, I did support annexing it into Parkland. I did not have the support from my colleagues. And I told my colleagues, I'm gonna warn you, he's not stupid. He's got a good lawyer. They're gonna go to the county. So when we could have gotten 3 or 4 units to the acre, most likely 3 units to the acre on that land, guess what they did? They went to the county, and the county offered Mr. Tuttle 15 units to the acre. Let me say that again, 15 units to the acre, where the average acreage in Parkland is 3 units to the acre. So imagine 15 units to the acre and 15% workforce housing on the northwest corner of Loxahatchee Road, facing the Everglades next to $1 million homes. Now, I'm somebody who comes from the streets of Queens, New York. I believe in workforce housing in an area where it should be. I do not believe in workforce housing next to millions.
Commissioner Kagan, that's time, but our next question is about workforce housing. So you're going to be able to pick up right where you left off since you're up next. Okay. So the next question is actually, what is your stance on building workforce housing inside of Parkland?
My question, yes?
Yes, that's your question.
So I'm going to continue.
Okay.
No problem with workforce housing. You're talking about teachers, nurses, firefighters, police. They live all over Parkland. My concern is the density. We have to control density. We have to have smart development, and we need to develop in a way that it fits in our community. By throwing that away, our community loses. So now the developer, because of the communication that I brought back to the dais, and I did actually have the support of Commissioner Walker. So now we are back in discussions with the developer, and the developer has dropped off the plans that are in review, and that would take all 3 parcels and bring all 3 parcels together, which they are in, for full disclosure, they have a letter of intent with Lennar. Am I a huge fan of the way things are going on with Lennar? Absolutely not. But what experience shows is there are certain things that are development issues, there are certain things that are HOA issues, and there are certain issues that are closeout issues. And I didn't just start working with the developer and the residents during election season. I've been working with them for years. If you contact any resident and you ask any resident, if I needed something and I picked up the phone and I called Stacy Kagan, if she jumped on it, they're going to tell you yes. If you called any resident in Parkland Bay with everything that's going on in Parkland Bay right now, and they said, what has Stacy Kagan done? We were making really good headway up until a meeting that we had about a month ago when Lennar was threatened. You get more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. And the way that you communicate and you form relationships, because it has to be a win-win for everybody. The residents first, the developer second. But it's about communication, and it's about having the relationships to get things done.
Thank you. Commissioner Walker?
I'm going to have to agree to disagree on that one. Somebody who deals with developers, general contractors on a daily basis, developers are out for one thing, pleasing their shareholders. They're not out to please the residents or please a mayor or please a commission. They're out there 100% to please their shareholders. It is absolutely our responsibility to stand up and stick up for our residents and make sure they're taken care of. Mar-a-Lago was built 7 years ago. They are still to this day having drainage issues, having issues on the sidewalk, having issue on the roads. Maybe somebody called and said, hey, let's try to fix this. It hasn't happened in 7 years. Cascada is now having the same exact issues that Mar-a-Lago had. And now Parkland Bay, the same issues. You do not develop a friendship with a developer. Their responsibility is to their shareholders and to the bottom dollar. That is 100% their responsibility. And I do not fault them for that. But someone who deals with developers day in and day out, I understand that. I understand how general contractors work, landscapers, electricians. They're out there for themselves to make sure they're making money. It's our responsibility to make sure we're holding our city staff and our developers accountable to make sure what needs to happen happens. And that is one thing that I will absolutely fight for, because I'm not out here to make friends with anybody. I'm out here to secure our residents, to make sure they have everything that they need and they're taken care of. And it's business first. Developers understand that. It's business first.
Thank you. And I would be remiss if I didn't ask another question about a property issue in Parkland. I know there were so many issues in Parkland until I signed up for this debate. This one is about the Hendricks Farm. What is your stance on proactively preparing for the eventual selling of the Hendricks Farm to a new buyer? What, if anything, can be done to steer the outcome of how the Hendricks farmland is developed? For you, Commissioner Walker.
Yeah, so I'm not intimately friendly with Hendricks Farm. So I don't know when he's going to sell. I don't know if he knows when he's going to sell. Is it a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Those ideas I don't have. But one thing we need to do is make sure we're preparing as best we can. When the wedge was built, we did not necessarily prepare for that influx of residents. We were short on field space. We were short at our Parks and Rec Center. We just purchased 24 acres of land next to 12 acres that we had owned on Hillsborough, where the radio towers used to be. That is something I would have purchased 5 years ago, knowing what the wedge, which is Mar-a-Lago, Cascada, Parkland Bay, Watercrest, knowing how much influx of new residents that would bring, I would have had the foresight to know we need to make sure we're prepared on an infrastructure side for those new residents coming in. And that is something we did not do. Now we're looking to try to add this particular space, new roads, and that is something we're now trying to play catch up on. And anybody who knows about government is not a quick process. It's long, it's slow. So here we are now trying to play catch up. And that's, to me, is unfortunate because there are things we need. We've outgrown our Parks and Rec department. We don't have enough space for activities for our 55 plus communities. We don't have enough space for our young children, our adolescents, whether it's basketball, baseball, soccer, you name it, we're falling short in the level of service that we should be providing for our residents.
Thank you. Commissioner Kagan, an opinion on Hendricks Farm?
Oh, I have a lot of opinion on Hendricks Farm, and I apologize if I'm going to go over time. And again, this is where I've been serving the community, and I say serving, for the last 8 years. I'm very familiar with Hendricks Farm. Hendricks Farm, in case you didn't know, Commissioner Walker, is 750 acres, and it is not in the city of Parkland. It's in unincorporated Broward. It would have to be annexed into the city, and I'm sure you know, or maybe not, that annexation does take quite some time. I do have a strong relationship with Mr. Hendricks, and I have for many years. And the reason I have a strong relationship with Mr. Hendricks is I don't put pressure on Mr. Hendricks. I respect what Mr. Hendricks has done on that land. I respect the fact that there are about 30 families that live on that land. I respect the fact that he donates food on a daily basis to the food banks and anybody who needs anything. All you have to do is give Mr. Hendricks a call and he'll do whatever he can to help people. When that land is developed, that land will be the center and focal point of our community. And what it will also do is provide an east-west access that we need from traffic. Now I'm going to take a step back and talk about the parks. Prior to Commissioner Walker even being on the dais, we bought land. Whenever a city could buy land to prevent development, that is a yes, that is a win. We recently bought additional land and have a 32-acre park, as I'm sure Commissioner Walker is aware of, because I know he's well aware of our parks master plan that we all voted on and agreed on. We do have great park space. We do have beautiful fields. Fields 6, 7, 8, and 9 are being worked on. We do have some drainage issues on our fields. I didn't build the fields, we're not engineers, but we do have very smart, strong people. And the people who should be focusing on our parks are not our coaches, but that's our director of our parks. That's our parks director. And when there's a problem, it should be brought through and sent through our Parks and Rec department, and it should be discussed with the commission and everybody. We have planned properly for the amount of park space that we have needed, and we continue to improve our park space with our sunshades that we ordered, with our new artificial turf, with expanding Terramar Park, and doing new park space on.
It's up time. I'm sorry, Commissioner. All right, this is going to be the final question before we get to our summation. And I've kind of been pouring through the questions here, and I think this is a good one for a summation. Before we get into the summation, I'm sorry. So this is for Commissioner Kagan, I believe, first. What do you feel will be your biggest challenge if you're elected, and how would you address that challenge?
Well, I'm going to continue doing what I've been doing, serving the residents of Parkland. I'm also going to incorporate something called a 5-star process, which I am extremely excited about. And that's focusing on what we need right now. We're going through COVID. We're coming off of a shooting, a 100-year storm, a hurricane. So we need to be there for our residents, and we need to be there more now than ever so we can help our small businesses, so we can bring our community safely through COVID. And these are the things that I feel we need to focus on. All of the topics that we've talked on now and so much more. So I'm going to offer everybody my phone number. So if they have any questions about anything, they can call me. But we're going to focus on sensitivity, dealing with the needs of our residents, trust, trusting the mayor and the commission in knowing that when we give information, we're going to provide accurate information. We're going to tell the truth. We're not going to do things because we're in the middle of a campaign. We're going to provide added value in our leisure services for residents of all ages, from our little ones to our young at heart. We're also going to be more responsive. And I find it a little offensive that our staff and our past commission are being blamed for things that we are very, very properly planned for. We plan out for 10 years, 10 years. When we have a strategic plan, we look at everything today, 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, and 10 years from now. So I already have my plans in place that I feel is in the best interest of Parkland, because I speak to everybody. I just don't speak to the people at the parks. I speak to the people in all of the communities, all of the areas of Parkland. And I feel that everybody needs to understand we are Parkland, and we want green space and we want leisure.
Thanks, you're going to have 5 minutes to do your summation here after Commissioner Walker addresses what his biggest challenge is if he's elected, and how would you address that challenge?
Is bringing our biggest challenge is bringing our community together. One of the things that we need to do is make sure every resident has a voice. I speak to all the residents, whether it's at Pine Tree Estates, whether it's at Heron Bay, whether it's in Parkland Bay, whether it's in Mir-a-Lago, whether it's on the fields, whether it's at the schools, whether it's at community events, whether it's at businesses. I've been there every day, every step of the way. Having 5 children leads me to believe that I'm right here. Everything that you go through, I'm going through with you. We need to make sure we're one community going in one direction. and every person must have a voice. And that is absolutely positively one thing that I always give. I don't tell anybody their idea is bad. I don't tell anybody that maybe they should move. I don't tell any residents that I don't know the answer. If you speak to me, and if I don't have an answer, I will get it and I will get back to you. I have never and will never tell anyone what I do not believe to be the absolute truth. And that is one thing I've always done, and that is what I live by. My children live here. My wife lives here. We live here together as a family. I'm going to live here for the next 20 years. And that's so important. Every decision I make today will affect me, my family, my friends, my neighbors, young or old. We're all affected the same. But one thing will not change. I will be here for the next 20 years.
Thank you. All right, we've come to the end of the question portion of the debate. Now, as I stated at the beginning, you're each going to have 5 minutes to essentially sell yourself to the voters. And if you want to refute anything your opponent said, that is fine. You have 5 unsolicited moments. Since Commissioner Walker got the first question, we'll give Commissioner Kagan the first chance to tell us why she should become mayor.
I have been on an 8-year job interview, and everything that I've done in this community, I am extremely proud of. And I feel very confident with every vote I've made and every decision I've made. I do not serve the city, I serve the people. I serve all 10,000 children that we have and every resident that lives here. I am not a one-dimensional candidate. I'm a candidate that looks at everything. And I would really like to say thank you to Commissioner Walker for choosing Parkland as your home, because you chose your Parkland as your home because of all of the amazing things that I have done as a commissioner and that our past commissions have done. And I'm very glad that you did decide to move here, and I know your children will have a beautiful life here. On the second portion of that question, I've already been here for 25 years, and I plan on being here for a very long time. And as you know, Commissioner Walker, I just had my house rebuilt because my house was damaged from a hurricane. You were in my house. You spent 3 hours in my house, and you knew what I went through and the experience that I had with Hurricane Irma. And when you were questioned about that, you couldn't even give an answer that you were aware of everything that went on here. And you knew everything that went on here in my home. So I really wish, as a commissioner, that you would have been upfront and honest as a commissioner and a colleague instead of avoiding the question. But let's get back to the community. I will be focusing on public safety as I do always, and every campaign promise I have ever made, I have kept. So public safety is huge. I've been endorsed by our firefighters, and I believe that says a lot because I contribute to what they do and I appreciate what they do. Smart growth and development, having the knowledge and experience to move our community forward in the areas that need help. Commissioner Walker has been on our days for 2 years. He's talking about the problems that he sees. I would like to know the why. What has he done in Mar-a-Lago, in Cascada, in Parkland Bay, in Parkland Isles where you live, where, by the way, when I was your commissioner in Parkland Isles and there were issues in Parkland Isles, I worked with many people in your community, with the trees, with the sidewalks, with the renovations. I never saw you at a meeting when you weren't a commissioner, and you're saying you're engaged and you're everywhere. Yes, you're everywhere, but you're mostly at the parks. I have not had a child in our school system since 2007. I have not stopped volunteering in our schools. I have not stopped committing my time, my experience. I've been a mentor, a volunteer. I've offered scholarships. I've offered paid internships for every year that my business has been open. I teach at Douglas at the DECA program and the INVEST programs. And I agree, we have to bring our community together. But when we bring our community together, we have to do it the right way. We have to do it safely. We have to make sure that our kids on those fields are safe. I can tell you, I've seen a little bit of an improvement, but when I go out on the fields, I still see people that are not playing in a sport and are not physically distancing. And guess what? They're not wearing a mask. And I believe that to protect our community, it starts with what I do. with what the leaders do, what a real leader does. And a real leader sets an example of what people should be able to do. And if wearing a mask is going to protect me and protect you, I'm going to wear a mask. I don't follow the politics, I follow the science. Also, you will never hear me tell somebody what they want to hear for me to get their vote. I will not give an empty promise that I can't deliver. I work with deepening of relationships. When you have a relationship with people, there's a way to have a win-win situation, not a win-lose. There's always a way to find a way to bring people together. I also really appreciate in a lot of the campaign things that I'm seeing people are using my verbiage. That means they agree. They believe in what I'm saying. I have been saying one Parkland since I started my campaign. We are going to be one Parkland again. And I'm going to lead Parkland in the right direction with the plans that I have for COVID, with the plans that I have for the future of our businesses, for the mentorship programs that I have between our youth and our small businesses. And I'm going to forge deep relationships with the community that are missing now. Diversity, boards, focus groups, and having types of internships for the age group that is having the toughest time right now. That's our one last statement, and I promise I'll stop. Our little ones, and we can't forget about the kids that should be in college right now that have lost a lot of their youth, and these kids need an outlet, and I have a plan for them too. So thank you so much for the time and the opportunity, and I wish everybody well. And all I ask is everybody do your research, and I thought if anybody wants to talk to me, that's my phone number. Call me. I will pick up my phone. Thank you.
Commissioner Walker, if you go a few, 30 seconds over, I will let you continue, my friend.
Not a problem. I won't go over, Jeff.
Yep.
So I've been married for 19 years to a strong and passionate woman, Catherine. She's as involved as I am in the PTA. She's involved in the color guard with my children. We have 5 wonderful children. My youngest is 6. I have a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old. Then I have a 14-year-old and 16-year-old daughters. I have 2 children that go to Park Trails, 1 that goes to West Glades, and 2 that go to Stoneman Douglas. I've been a business owner in the construction field for 25 years. I deal with developers. I deal with general contractors on a daily basis. We chose Parkland because of the schools, the community, the parks, the diversity of this community, and I couldn't imagine a better place to raise my children. That being said, there's some work to be done, and I'm looking forward and happy to do that work. Safety and security is obviously number 1. We need to make sure our law enforcement and first responders are as highly trained and they have all the best equipment. Our developers, we need to make sure we're controlling our development in a measured way. We need to make sure we have strict zoning codes, buying property when available, but most importantly, we're holding our developers accountable. And that is something that I have seen, that is something that we have not done. Our businesses, I've been with our businesses since day 1. Not when I started campaigning, since day 1. I visited our businesses all the time. They're wonderful people trying to do wonderful things. And it's important for our community to make sure these businesses succeed, because when they succeed, our community will succeed. Our Parks Master Plan, it's more than about parks. And I will never talk down or be negative to somebody that has a passion. Obviously, my passion is Parks and Rec because I have 5 children. And I'm out there every day coaching your children, on the board of soccer, on the board of Little League. Those are the things I do because I love children and I love our community. And I want to do everything I can to make sure our community is a better place for everyone, not just for people in the parks. Because I give to charitable organizations, whether it's Parkland Cares, Stand with Parkland, make our schools safe, you name it. Every charitable organization, I'm there. Our families have done a tremendous thing in our community. They've gone through a terrible thing where they've lost loved ones. And every one of our families have stepped up and made a difference, not just in lives of one person or two people. They've made a difference in our community. They've made a difference in our state, and they've made a difference in our country. And I appreciate that. And that's one of the things I love so much about Parkland. We are so strong. We persevere through everything. So I will never be negative about somebody who has a passion. And I'm proud of my passion in the Parks and Rec Department. We are called Parkland. It's important for us to have the best and brightest for all of our residents, not just the ones who play in the parks, but the ones who play in our Parks and Rec Department and our businesses. We need to be there for all of our residents. And that's one of the things that I love the most about our community is our perseverance. Our businesses are so important. We need to make sure we're there for them because they're out for us, whether it's a community events. I'm almost sorry to say they support our Parks and Rec Department. They sponsor our teams, but they're there for us. It's now time for us to be there for them during these times of COVID when they can't open and the gyms are losing memberships time after time and our restaurants can't get enough people to go in. These are people who work their entire lives for a vision, for something that they're looking forward to do to change their lives of them and their families. It's important for us to support them. And that's 100% what I do every single day of my life. And not just me, but my entire family. And that's all I have to say. I hope everybody does their research, looks at the candidates, and understands who is going to take us to the future of Parkland. And I'm looking forward to everybody voting for Rich Walker.
I'd like to thank both you, Commissioner Walker, and you, Commissioner Kagan, for joining us tonight. We learned a lot of interesting things. We had very differing opinions on many subjects, and that's what's great about America. And now the people will decide on November 3rd who's going to be the next mayor. And I wish you both the best of luck in the upcoming election and look forward to seeing you guys in the community, hopefully, when we all get to go back to MSD and start living a little bit more of a normal existence in 2021, apparently. I'm going to throw it back to Neil and Ken now to wrap this thing up.
Thanks, Jeff. We all want to thank you for an extraordinary job. I know it wasn't easy, and Minda never had to hit the mute button on the commissioners, so that was a positive. Minda, thank you for a wonderful performance on your part. It was an extraordinary hour for the residents of Parkland to hear the two of you, and I'll just make one comment and then I'm going to turn it over to Ken. As I said at the outset, over the coming 4 weeks, I hope that the two of you work on your campaigns in a civil, respectful way. We're all frustrated by the circumstances that we all face ourselves in, but it never needs to be personalized. What is comforting to me, and I think all of those that are watching and live in the city of Parkland, is that we're all in this together as neighbors and friends, and let's try and remember that. I wish you both well, and now I'll turn it over to Ken.
Same feelings, Neil. Thank you both to the commissioners. Thank you, Jeff. You did a great job. Appreciate it, Minda. Look, I said it earlier on. I'm excited about all I see, and all the two of you running for mayor, but even the people running for commission. You don't often see so much involvement, so many things actually happening, so many people in the community, whether it's some of the young people that have actually hosted you and done interviews directly, or lots of other residents that have solicited your opinions in different ways. There's one of the things I was least proud of in Parkland was how few people actually get involved and ultimately wind up voting. Especially after the tragedy. So that was one of the things that was driving me, and when Neil and I and the group talked about it, was really trying to provide people access to the candidates and really get them good information to make a decision. It is amazing to me how many people, especially at the local election level, vote for people based on the spelling of their names or whether they're male or female, or, I mean, these things, and have no understanding and don't actually do any research to find out whether or not that person actually represents them. And so I think with the questions that we asked tonight and your answers tonight, it gets us a lot closer and the residents a lot closer to understanding who you are and what type of a mayor you would be. So I appreciate that. I'm with Neil. The negativity is never needed. Anyone who takes their time, their personal time, and commits to doing a job, whether it's, on the commission or like Neil and I in a homeowners association, although we don't get paid, it's one of those things you do because it's a passion. And so you're giving up of your time, and I'm grateful for that. And thank you both for that.
And we'll see everybody tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, for 2 hours of commissioner debate. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Good, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much.